So welcome students, and so now I continue with file handling in Python, and in that series today I'll be taking up CSV files. Okay, CSV files in Python. Now, what is CSV first of all? Okay, what is CSV? Now the first thing is its full form, and the full form of CSV is comma separated values file, right? That's the full form of CSV. Second, as the name suggests, like the data in this file is separated by comma. Okay, the data is comma separated in it by default. I'll tell you what it is later. Then second, CSV is a file. What type of a file is it? It's a plain text file. Okay, it's a plain text file. Then the next question that should be coming to your mind is then what's the difference between a text file and a CSV file then? Okay, a very obvious question that should come to your mind. See, first of all, CSV file is used to share data. Its utility is to share data, correct? I'll tell you why do we use CSV to share data and not Excel or any other form of data storage, right? So now I'll first take up difference between CSV and text. The first thing is that in CSV data is stored in tabular format, right? It's a plain text file, but the data is stored in tabular format and separated by comma, whereas in a text file data is normally stored in text format, like you store any text in any of the files and not in tabular format at all. Okay, but in CSV data is stored in tabular format. In text file all sort of formattings can be done. Okay, all sort of formattings. So the file carries all sort of formatting with it, which makes a text file slower to work and heavier as compared to a CSV file, wherein in CSV file no formatting is supported. Okay, then CSV file is compatible with number of applications, right? It's supported by Google Sheets. CSV file is supported by databases and many programming languages, like Python is one of them. So that's an advantage of using CSV. So CSV files, basically their utility is for sharing data, sharing information. Okay, why? Because humongous amount of data in CSV stores less amount of space as compared to if I talk of an Excel sheet or any other compatible sheet of this type, right? So these are few features and characteristics of a CSV file, and CSV file being a plain text file yet is different from a text file, okay, which we have just discussed, right? Okay, I'll see one thing that obviously you must have understood by now. Data in a CSV file is stored in tabular format, right? So is in CSV as well as in an Excel file also, data is stored in a tabular format. But there's a difference in CSV. CSV, okay, the data is like, say my data is name, class, and say this is marks. Okay, so say my name is Rahul, class is 12, marks is say 85. Then I have Shyam, okay, say class is 11, marks is 95, and I just go on and on. Same data in Excel would be how? Name, class, marks, correct? And the same data you would have here. So here also you see what? Data, a CSV file also looks like what? It's a collection of rows and records like it's in Excel. But again, CSV and Excel are compatible with each other, right? But again, the advantages that I just talked of, okay, of CSV with respect to text file, same applies to Excel as well. CSV files are simpler, they are lighter, they are more compatible with various applications and languages, right? So that's the reason we use CSV file to share, whenever there's data of big amount, humongous amount, I go for a CSV and not for Excel. Okay, and this is how a CSV file looks. Okay, a CSV file, again, like I just said, data is in tabular format, but each data is separated in comma. Okay, so if this is so, name, class, marks. Okay, and then I had like Rahul, then I have 12, then I have say whatever marks here, then I have say I had Sham, I had a class, I had some marks here, and it goes on and on. Okay, so this is how a CSV file looks like. So if I talk of reading and writing on a CSV file, it happens row by row. It happens row by row, obviously starts from the header row. Okay, so in a CSV file, reading and writing happens row by row. Now there's one thing I want to tell you all. We call it comma separated file, right? But not necessarily the delimiter. Now comma is what here? Comma is the delimiter, okay, which is separating data from one another. So this delimiter by default is comma, but it can be any character for that matter, any character that you mention while writing onto the file. Say if I say that my delimiter is hyphen, so in place of comma I would have what? I would have hyphen. But if I'm not mentioning any delimiter while creating the file, the default delimiter is comma. So this has to be taken care of, right? Now we know what a CSV file is. Okay, how is it different from a text file? How is it different from Excel? And how does it look like? Okay, now the next thing that we need to understand is how to read, write, okay, using CSV file. So now again, see, it being a text file, the modes remain the same: read, write, append, like it was. Okay, for text file we use the same. Fine. Now there's a module called CSV. Now this module, it's a Python module which has functions, built-in functions that support reading, writing on CSV files. So as to use the built-in functions, okay, present in CSV module, we need to do what? We need to import CSV whenever we are working on our CSV files, right? Now, what are the functions that we use for reading and functions used for writing? Okay, so for reading, what we do is, using reader function of CSV file, we do what? We create reader object. Okay, we create a reader object, and this reader object is what? It is an iterable. Iterable means something on which you can iterate. And what do you get on each iteration? It's like, you get a list, and each list is what? It's a row. On each iteration you get a row, and you can traverse, okay, each element of that row as you traverse a list. And the indexing is same as that of a list. The first element has 0th index, second element has first index, and on. I'll just show you later on as well. Now writing. For writing, again I create a writer object, okay, and it is created using writer function of CSV module, correct? After this, after executing writer function, there are two row functions again, write row and write rows. Again, these functions are writer object functions, okay, and these functions can be invoked using writer object To write, this one's used to write each row onto the file, and write rows is used to write multiple rows together onto the file. Now we'll practically see how these work. Okay, we'll practically see how these work. Now first of all, I'll see how to read from a CSV file. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to import CSV, correct? Then next thing, I'll create a file object. And how do I create it? Open. Say my file name is x.csv, and I'm opening it in which mode? Read mode. Okay. Now what next? I need to create a reader object. Okay, and say I'm giving it name arrow. And how do I create it? I create it using csv.reader function, and I pass f to it. Here delimiter argument, okay, also can be given. Say I give comma, and if you want to give comma, you can even leave it empty, because if I'm not mentioning the delimiter in my file, means what? It is comma only. So this is by default comma. You may even skip writing this. But if there's some other delimiter that you have used while creating the file, say it's a hyphen, you have to write delimiter here, right? So in this case, I am considering it as comma only. So I can even do what? I'll just skip this. So I hope you're understanding. Only if you have a delimiter other than comma, you need to mention here while reading, so that the system knows, the system understands that, okay, the delimiter to be used is something which is not a comma. So it's a hyphen, it's an asterisk, it's an hash, whatever. So accordingly it reads, right? So delimiter is just a separator that separates data in each row. The moment that particular character is encountered, it is like, okay, now the second, this data is done. Now I am going on to the second data, okay, of the row. And as soon as again I encounter the delimiter, it means I am now moving on to the third one. This is how delimiters work. Okay, so now as I told you all, this arrow or this reader object is what? It's an iterable. It's an iterable means I can iterate upon it. So if I write for, say, rec in arrow, what do I get in rec? In rec I get, okay, I get each record or each row of the CSV file. So now if I print rec, I'll get what? I'll get each record. Like if I consider the previous file that I made, if I consider this file, which was name, okay, class and marks, and the first name was it was Rahul, okay, the class was 12, say the marks was 95, then I had Shyam, say the class was 11, marks was 85. So I'm reading this file. Now what is going to be printed? So the first row is this, second row is this, third is this. So what is going to be printed in my output? First thing is name, okay, comma class, comma marks, okay. Then second would be Rahul, okay, then 12, then 95, okay, and so on. So this is how my data is going to be, or each record is going to be printed. Fine. Now see, suppose okay, I'll take another example in which, say, I want to count the number of records, okay, or number of rows in a CSV file. How am I going to write again? Yeah, I'll just do what? I'll just, yeah, again, import, right? I will, just a minute, I will import CSV I import CSV again. F equals to open x dot CSV, and I do what? I open it in read mode. Fine. Then what next? Now I do what? Again, I create a reader object equals to it's what? CSV dot reader, and I pass F here. Okay, if there's some other delimiter, I would write delimiter equals to that delimiter. Now see, because I need to count, okay, the number of rows, so I need a counter, correct? Now what I do is, before traversing, okay, what I do, I write next arrow. What is this doing? It takes cursor onto next record. Why? Because I don't want to count the header row. Okay, why would I count the header row? I need to count the number of records. So I don't need to count the header row. I just need to count these records. So what I do is, next function does what? It brings my, by default the cursor is at the beginning. We saw it in the previous example. When I'm traversing it, I'm even displaying the header. By writing this, what happens? My cursor comes here now. Okay, now if I write for rec in row and I do what? Count plus equals to 1, I would get the number of records in my CSV file. If I would have not written this line, I would get 1 additional count, because the header row also would be counted, which definitely I would not want. Correct? Which I would not want. So this is about how to use how to do reading. I'll just take one more example to show you all how to search, okay, in a CSV file. Now say my CSV file is, okay, say I take roll number, okay, then name, and then marks. My first roll number is 1, say name again is Rahul, marks is 85, then I take roll number 2, name is Neeta, marks is 90, and say roll number 3, name is Shyam, marks is 70. Okay, this is what I have. Now I read this CSV file. So first again what am I going to do? Import CSV. Okay, now see, I told you all that each record, okay, is treated as a list when you traverse the reader object. So the index also happens the same. So the roll number is at which index? 0 index. Name at 1, marks at 2. So this is going to help me. Okay, now see, what my question is, what I want to do is, I'll enter a roll number and I have to display details of that roll number. Okay, so first I'll be entering a roll number, I'll be mapping with each of these in each iteration. As soon as I find the matching one, its name and marks would be displayed. So now let's see how we do it. Now again I write this. See, I'm using this F equals to open again and again. You can even write with open, and that way also of creating a file object, right? F equals to open x dot CSV and read. Okay, and now I create my reader object CSV dot reader F. Now what I do is, okay, I enter the roll number which I would be searching. Okay, so roll number equals to int input enter. Okay, I enter the roll number. Now what I do for rec in row, if rec equals to the roll number that I've entered, sorry, if rec 0, okay, because my roll number is on 0th index. So in the first iteration, rec is here, obviously here, but there's no point, there would be no comparison, it would not be equal to. So it comes here on second iteration, it checks roll number, say I've entered roll number 2 here, not matching, then it comes here. Again, rec is here, so rec 0 is compared with this roll number, and if it matches, then this name and these marks are going to be displayed. So I'll just write it properly. Yeah. If rec 0, you know why I have mentioned 0 here, equals to roll number. If it is so, if I find the matching one, I'll do what? I'll print rec 1 comma rec 2. Why? Because name is on first index and marks is on second index. And finally, see, always remember, in my last programs I just missed out doing it, always close the file. If you're not using with open method to open a file, you always have to close. Okay. See, in the previous example, we saw that the output that we get, like each record which is being traversed, we see what? We see that each, record is displayed as a list. But what list as in, I'll just show you all. Each record. So the first is the header one. So I see this, okay. Then this is my first row. It's the header row, right? And then I see, okay, the second one also is what? It's Rahul. Then it's the class. And then it's the marks, okay. Then the next record, say it was Shyam. It was the class. And say the marks. I don't want to see it like this. I want to see my output as it is in the CSV file. I want to look at it like this, okay, in my output. Okay, I want this. Okay, and as it is in the CSV file. How am I going to do it? I'll just show you all. Okay, so what we are going to do here is, I would just, again, import CSV that we have to do, and then f equals to open. Again, I open my x.csv, okay, in which mode? In read mode. And then I do what? I create a reader object, csv dot reader, I get f, and then what I do here is for rec in, okay, row. What am I going to do? I'm simply going to do this. I'm going to use join function. Okay, join rec. So what is it going to do? And then finally I'll close my file. See, rec is what? My first row that I get of my CSV. Okay, that first row is in the first iteration, which by default I'm getting in what format? Okay, I'm getting them one by one. Okay, what I do is I join each value of rec using comma. First value is this, second value is this, third value is this. Each of them is, okay, joined using comma. That's why I get each value separated by comma. Here again, each value separated by comma. If my question says I don't want this comma here, I want a hyphen, I would have a hyphen here. So this is how I can have, my output displayed in whichever format I want. The default one being this. Okay, you can have it in any format. Okay. Writing on a CSV file. So, like I told you all, I'd be using writer, I'd be using write row. So, first of all, obviously, what are you going to do? You're going to write import CSV. Okay, and then f equals to open, right? F equals to open x.csv and w, right? Then there's one more thing that you have to write here. I'll explain why. Then you write so here you're opening file and you're writing new line equals to empty. Why do I write this new line? it's a practical implication, just to solve a practical implication. What happens is that when you open a file, automatically, it writes on new line. First new line occurs because every time writing occurs on a new line. And the writer object which we are going to use itself again adds an additional new line. Okay, so what happens when you write on a CSV file, instead of just going on to the new line, your rows, you write here, then two lines are skipped, and then second line it writes, then again two lines are skipped, and then it writes. I just don't want it. I just want to have a difference of one line. To do so, I neutralize one new line, and to neutralize it, I override it with just a space or empty. Okay, just I give this. So the new line is overwritten. You don't get two new lines here, right? Okay. Now, so next what am I going to do? I'm going to create a writer object. Okay. Now, writer object, how do I create? CSV dot writer f. Now again, if I want a delimiter something other than comma, I need to mention here. And if I want my delimiter to be a comma only, I just don't have to give anything here. I just do this. So my writer object is created. Now, see, we all know when we are creating a CSV file, the first row has to be header, then followed by row 1, row 2, and on. This is how we do. So I first need a list which is header. Okay, say if I consider the previous CSV, so it was name, then it was class, and then it was marks. Okay, so this is the header that I want here. Okay, so very first thing that I'm going to do is what? I would do WO writer object dot write row. I'm just writing a single row. I'm writing this header row. Okay, so I would write header. So on my CSV file, my header is written. Now next what I need to do, I need to have these rows. Okay, and then write these rows onto my CSV file. So there are two ways. You create a list. Okay, you create a list. I'm just creating a list here, not at runtime. You can create a list at runtime as well. So I just create a list here with the data which I just shown you all. So my first data is Rahul, then class was 12, then marks was say 95, right? My second record is say Neeta, right? Class was say 11, marks was 85. Here I'm just taking two records, right? So I have this list. You know how to create this at runtime as well. Okay, if you've been asked to enter the records at runtime, you can do it. You know how to do it. Now that I have a list which has now what, multiple records in it, so I can do what, WO dot write rows, and in that I just write L. So what would happen, these two records also would be written upon my CSV file, and file, I close my CSV file. Got it? So this is how you create or write onto a CSV file. See, the question also might say that you already have a CSV file and you just need to append an extra record to it. So in that case, instead of W, you would just write append, and in that case, you would not need to write the header because you're just appending. The CSV file already exists. Got it? So you would not have to write on it. You'd not have to write header on it. You just add a single row and you would write. Okay, so this is all about CSV file, right? So if there's any doubt you all have, if there's any confusion, you may please comment. And see, at the end I would just say one thing about all the files. We did text, we did binary, we did CSV. So you should clearly know the difference between these. See, I mean, there's no comparison between a binary and a CSV. There's comparison between text binary. There's a comparison between CSV and text. That you all should be knowing, right? Yeah. So, see, there's one more function. I'll tell you all. There's this function line underscore number. Okay. Now this is a reader. You can just access this. Suppose I write print. I just missed out. That's why I'm just going ro dot line underscore number. What does line underscore number return? It returns the line number on which the cursor is on the CSV file. See, I've just opened my CSV file and I print this. So what is going to be printed? 0. Say I have moved on to next. Say after this I write next ro. And now if I write the same line, what would I get? I would get 1. I just missed it out, so I wanted to let you all know how line underscore number works. So students, this is about CSV file. If any doubt, please comment and let me know. I'll get back. Thank you, all of you.